Yeah, so welcome to third reading of Ynglinga Saga. Before I start today, I just want to give a short comment on the intro graphics. For anybody who wonders, there's this image of a cauldron where I'm zooming in on a relief face in relief on the cauldron. This isn't a find from the Viking Age. It's a find from the Iron Age. And it's found in Denmark. It's called the Gundestrup Cauldron. But the reason why I'm using it is because it kind of symbolizes a lot of the enigmas around Scandinavian Norse culture and its origins and all this kind of stuff. Because the make of the cauldron has been identified as around year 0, maybe a little bit before year 0. I don't remember precisely, and it's a Thracian craftsmanship, but some of the symbols on it and some of the ornaments are similar to Celtic and also Scythian symbols. So it kind of revolves around this. Actually, the area that the sagas themselves point to as where Odin and his 12 Diar came up. And the time period reckoning with what is said in the sagas fits really nicely. And this cauldron is one of the finest Iron Age finds in the whole world, and in Europe at least. And that this really could come up, and just be sold on some makeshift market. I don't think. Well, it could be, but not super likely in my view. I would think it would have come up as a gift or as part of a royal entourage or a earl or a prince, or in connection with something of that sort. So, and I'm not saying I know any solutions or have any specific ideas, but it kind of amplifies for me some of the enigmas about the Norse heritage, and also, so that's why I introduce this series with that image. So let's read the third part, and I'll be taking some photographs to accompany it, and we can return for some commentary later.
Odin divided the kingdom and sent Gefjon. A large mountain range goes from the northeast to the southwest. It divides Great Svitjod from other lands. South of the mountains, it's not far to Tyrkland. Odin owned great lands there. That time, Roman chieftains were roaming all over the world and were conquering all kingdoms, and many chieftains abandoned their lands from the strife they brought. But since Odin had foresight and knew sorcery, he knew that his descendants would need to build a home in the northern part of the world. He then set his brothers Ve and Vili to rule over Åsgard, and he left, and all the Diar and many people with him. He first traveled west to Gardariki, and then south to Saxland. He had many sons. He conquered lands far and wide in Saxland, and set his sons as custodians of those lands. He then traveled north over sea and settled down on the island, which is now called Odinsøy, on Fjoni. He then sent Gefjon north across the Sound to search for land. She then came to Gylfa, and he gave her plowland. She then traveled to Jotunheima, and there had 4 sons by a Jotun. She shaped them into oxen and fastened 4 plows on them and set across the land towards west and straight towards Odinsøy, and that is called Selund, and later she would make her home there. She was married to Skjöller, the son of Odin. They lived at Leiro. There is a lake or a water after this now, and it is called Løgrin. The fjords of Løgrin lie similar to the lands of Selund. So did Brage the Old sing. Gefjon drove from Gylfa, glad, the greatly gifted. So the sweat of oxen smoked. Denmark grows, the oxen bearing 8 skull moons there go. For vineyards wider and spoils of war, the 4 heads. When Odin heard that there were fertile lands to the east with Gylfa, he travelled there and settled his terms with Gylfa, as Gylfa perceived he did not have the power to resist the Æsir. Odin and Gylfa played many tricks and illusions on each other, but the Æsir always came out the richer of it. Odin set his home by Løgin, which is now called Old Sigtunir. He built a great hove and practiced sacrificial rites according to the customs of the Æsir. He acquired there all the lands that he named Sigtunir. He made homes for the hovgoder. Njörd lived at Noatun, and Frey at Uppsaler. Heimdaler at Himinbjörg, and Thor at Trudvang. Balder at Breidablik. They were all given good estates. On Odin's achievements. When Åsa Odin came to the northern lands, and with him the Diar, they initiated and taught those arts that men have practiced long after. Odin was the most accomplished of all, and from him they learnt all the arts, as he was the first to know them and knew the most of them. And it must be said, for every cause that he was so honoured, it came about from the following reasons. He was so beautiful and noble to behold when he sat with his friends that everyone felt happy and content. But when he made war, his countenance was dreadful to his enemies. The reason for this was that he knew the arts where he could change his skin and form any way he wished. Also, he spoke so well and smoothly that everyone who listened thought that this was the only truth. He said everything in verse, such as is now spoken and sung, that which is called skaldskapur. Him and his hofgoðar are called songsmiths, because they brought those arts to the northern lands. Odin could make it so that during battle his enemies would go blind or deaf or frightened, and their weapons wouldn't bite more than a staff. But his own men rushed forward without armor and were crazy as dogs or wolves, biting their shields, strong as bears or bulls in heat. They killed men, but neither fire nor iron would bite on them. That is called berserksganger.
So cool. So Tyrkland is Turkey, more or less, the areas of Turkey today. And Gardariki is would be Eastern Europe, going up into the Baltic countries and Poland and Western Russia. And Saxland, this is northern Germany. And Odense is what is today called Odense in Denmark. It's one of the major cities in Denmark now. And so Odense is what this refers to. And Fjoni is a Fyn in modern in Denmark. And Fyn is of course the island between Zealand and Jutland, and Odense is the capital or main city on Fyn. And Jotunheimer is important to point out because it shouldn't be confused with modern day mountain range in central Norway called Jotunheimen. This was only got that name during the 19th century, and the Jotunheim in the sagas is different. It's way far up north, and yeah, like north and east of Norway and Sweden. And Skjöld or Skjöld, I'm gonna be pronouncing a lot of the things that people today, the SKJ, you go down the Bali, SKJ and KJ in modern pronunciation. When reading Norse, they pronounce with similar to Icelandic and Danish, where these are separated into their skjöld and skegg and all these. They pronounce each consonant clearly. While if you go to most parts of Norway and Sweden, these are abbreviated into sh for what is, and sh, SKJ is a sh sound. I'm from East Norway, and with the extreme dialect variation of Norway, I think I'm not so sure that in the old times that variation wasn't there. Since it's so prevalent in Sweden and Norway, even in dialects that in Norway and Sweden that preserve the grammar and syntax of Norse, you have these sounds. So for me, I'm choosing to pronounce these words with my dialect. And so Skjöld, he's the progenitor of the Skjoldung-slægten, which is of course the Danish royal lineage. To this day, Denmark has, in a way together with Norway, but Denmark has kept its royal lineage intact since Viking times. So it's in that sense it's the oldest, to my knowledge, the oldest existing royal lineage. Leithru is modern day Lejre in Denmark, close to Roskilde. There are a lot of old sites there where you can going way back. It's a special place. And Lögren in the saga, his lake is Mälaren in Sweden, and so they're saying these are similar to how the islands and stuff are around Selund and Gefjon. Sigtunir, this is modern day Sigtuna, and Hov is a temple, and Skald. Skald is I guess the English equivalent would be bard, and so when they talk about that the skaldskaper comes from Odin, these are the arts of the bard, like musical arts, the poetry, prose. These come from Odin. Yeah. So that's part 3 of Ynglinga Saga. Yeah, see you next time. Kom Bali, så går vi här. Går den här vägen.